If you search for the Northern Lights online, two of the most highly recommended places are Fairbanks, Alaska, and Iceland. But which one actually gives me a better chance of seeing the aurora? Especially considering that my beautiful, generous, lively, and adorable sister went to Northern Europe for 2 weeks in the fall of 2024 and didn't see a single aurora, which has left me very hesitant. Every 11 years, Earth experiences a peak in solar activity. In 2025, the brightness, frequency, and intensity of the aurora will be especially spectacular, making it a great time to go aurora hunting. On average, Iceland has about 200 to 240 aurora visible nights per year, while Fairbanks has around 250. Both are quite good. The best time to see the Northern Lights in Iceland is from September to March, with January and February being the peak months. In Fairbanks, the aurora season runs from late August to April, which is slightly longer. But weather is also a key factor in whether you'll be able to see the aurora or not. Iceland doesn't have that many clear nights. That's what Google AI says, so don't blame me if it's wrong. Fairbanks, on the other hand, has about 70 cloud-free days per year, and most of them fall during aurora season. So based on that, it seems like Fairbanks has the advantage. In fact, during our 10-day, 9-night stay in Fairbanks, we only missed the aurora one night due to snowfall. We saw it almost every night. Local guides also say that because Fairbanks is more inland, the weather is more stable, giving you a better chance of seeing the lights. Next, let's talk about cost. Since we live in Arizona, I thought the cost to fly to Fairbanks would be relatively cheaper. Wrong! It costs over $700 per person, and that doesn't even include checked baggage. It's comparable to a flight to Taiwan. Iceland isn't cheap either. Tickets range from $700 to $1,300, and the flight takes over 15 hours. In February, hotels in Reykjavik, Iceland's capital, cost around $200 to $300 per night, but most are well rated. In aurora hotspots like the West Fjords or Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon, there are fewer options. In Fairbanks, hotel prices are around $200 per night in the same season, with decent ratings. Daily food expenses per person in Iceland are about $110 to $150, whereas in Fairbanks, it's about $20 to $100. Clearly, seeing the Northern Lights in Fairbanks is a bit cheaper and the chances are a bit higher. So what's there to hesitate about? Well, there's nothing to do. In the dead of winter, it's freezing cold. If the aurora doesn't show up, Iceland would feel like a more worthwhile destination. At least we will be in a different country. After a long discussion, we decided to go big and do both. We would go to Fairbanks in February and Iceland in September, hoping to maximize our chances of seeing the lights. After all, my beautiful, generous, lively, and adorable sister didn't see them, right? So, which is better for aurora viewing, Iceland or Fairbanks? Sorry, I'll only be able to tell you after my trip to Iceland in September. Don't hit me, please. However, I can start by sharing my experience of going to Fairbanks. Fairbanks is the second largest city in Alaska and the largest city in Alaska's interior, but it has a population of only 31,492 people, about the same as a small town in Taiwan. The city itself covers about 32.7 square miles, so driving anywhere within the city usually takes no more than 15 minutes. Still, it has stores like Costco and Walmart. You can get all your necessities. Although there aren't any fancy restaurants, there are still some decent options. You might be surprised to know there are quite a few Thai restaurants here. In February, the average lowest temperature is -2 degrees Fahrenheit, about 19 degrees Celsius. On average, there are only 3 rainy days in February. According to locals, the best time to see the Northern Lights in Fairbanks is from late September to early October, or from March to early April, around the equinoxes. That's because the temperatures aren't too cold, the weather is better, and the nights are long enough. However, I really wanted to try the ice slides at the World Ice Art Championships, so we decided to go in February. Lucky we had good weather. Since I wasn't sure if we'd rent a car, I made sure to book a hotel that offered airport shuttle service and breakfast. Going out to find food in freezing weather sounded painful. Based on price, we ended up staying at Hyatt Place Fairbanks. It's not in the city center, more on the outskirts, but within walking distance to many restaurants and a super Walmart, which has both department store items and groceries. The pizza place next door could even deliver straight to our room. Staying here, even without a car, you won't go hungry. I highly recommend it. Since we hadn't driven in snowy conditions for a long time, we kept hesitating about renting a car. Sometimes the car even needs to be plugged in to prevent freezing, which seemed like a hassle. Luckily, we decided to rent one. Driving in Fairbanks wasn't difficult. We only drove within the city and never experienced any skidding. Having a car saved us a lot of time. It only took about 15 minutes to get anywhere. It gave us more flexibility, allowing us to visit the restaurants and stores we wanted to go to. We rented the car from Avis. The cost of 7 days and 6 nights was $407. We only filled up gas once, and it was less than a quarter of the tank. There are 8 bus lines. The major lines are blue, brown, green, and red lines. Buses in winter generally only run from Monday to Friday. Each line starts and ends at different time. However, most of the buses start between 6 and 7 a.m. and end between 6 and 9 p.m. The ticket price is $1.5 with no change. The day pass is $3, but it is sold in only these locations. The reviews online are mixed. That was one of the reasons why we decided to rent a car. Uber and Lyft sometimes have long wait time. That said, our friends didn't rent a car. They stayed in downtown Fairbanks and they had a great time. Many local tours also provide transportation options. As for the itinerary, we stayed in Fairbanks for 10 days and 9 nights. We stayed for such a long time because, according to the internet, no matter where we went, we had to stay for a week to have a better chance of seeing the aurora. Also, the flights costed a day in the beginning and a day in the end. Since we planned to watch the northern lights at night, I only arranged one activity per day. You might ask, what's the conflict between going out during the day and watching the northern lights at night? The best time to see the northern lights is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. We're getting older. If we stay up late, we can't get up early in the morning. So, we could only manage one activity per day. Day 1. Flew to Fairbanks. Day 2. Hung out at the hotel. Rested and recuperated at the hotel. In the evening, we went to the Aurora Camp to try our luck at seeing the northern lights. Day 3. Went to the World Ice Art Championships I had been dreaming about. Day 4. Visited the Visitor Center and the University of Alaska Museum of the North. Day 5. Visited downtown in the morning, then checked into the domed Borealis Basecamp in the afternoon. Day 6. At the Borealis Basecamp, we visited reindeer, went dog sledding, and rode snowmobiles. Day 7. Went to Chena Hot Springs. Day 8. Took an Arctic Circle flight. Day 9. Took a guided tour to the Castner Glacier Ice Cave and North Pole to visit Santa Claus. Day 10. Headed home. Actually, we only booked the activities for Day 8 and Day 9 after arriving in Fairbanks. If we hadn't seen the northern lights during the first few nights, we would have gone back to the Aurora Camp for the last 2 nights to try again. However, we were lucky and saw them. So we were free to enjoy daytime activities instead. Moreover, Fairbanks in February wasn't as crowded as Italy. There were still spaces available even just a couple days in advance. Our travel expenses this time were about $10,000. Because we thought there was no tomorrow between us and winter Fairbanks, we splurged and joined a lot of local tours. But the most expensive part was staying at the Borealis Basecamp. Just 3 days and 2 nights cost over $2,500. Although that included dog sledding and snowmobiling, it was still pricey. But it might be once-in-a-lifetime experience to stay in a dome house where you can watch the sky. Whether it's worth it or not really depends on the individual. The other tours also depend on personal preference. For example, the Arctic Circle flight costed over $600 per person. However, we got to take the small airplane and enjoy the scenery in the Arctic Circle. If you're brave enough to drive in snowy wilderness, you can save a lot. For example, the ticket to Chena Hot Springs was only $20. However, if you took the transportation the resort provided, the price was $180 per person. The cost for our group tour was $220 per person, including the guide, the transportation, and the ticket. But honestly, after a whole day of travel, I mostly fell asleep on the ride back. I was really grateful someone drove us home. Finally, let's talk about cold weather gear. We were up against temperatures of -2°F or -19°C. I kept hesitating whether to buy super heavy-duty snow jackets and boots. In the end, I followed online advice and dressed in multiple layers instead of one thick jacket. I missed the chance to buy new clothes, but I saved a good chunk of money and it really was enough. I only bought thermal underwear, top and bottom, a knit hat, balaclava, insulated snow pants with fleece, and gloves that could hold hand warmers. I brought my own 2-layer ski jacket, turtleneck sweaters, wool blend socks, and scarves. If you're unsure, you can also rent gear locally. Some shops deliver directly to your hotel. My friends rented full sets and they were so warm that they wanted to buy the same outfits to take home. Link is below. As for shoes, I brought lined waterproof rain boots and hiking boots. Since you have to wear them as soon as you left your room, easy of putting them on and taking them off is important. Because the snow is muddy and slushy, no matter how much you brush your shoes before entering, they're still dirty. So we both left our shoes by the door and changed into slippers in the room. We were lucky to find cheap snow boots at local Costco. One pair was $7 and the other was $10. What a bargain! Finally, the most important things, hand warmers. I bought 2 types in the US, a smaller kind that sticks to socks or fits inside gloves and lasts 5 hours, and a slightly larger one lasting 8 hours. However, neither could beat the little white rabbit warmers I got in Taiwan that last 24 hours. We usually placed 1 in each shoe, 1 in each glove, and 1 in each pocket, 6 per person, plus a few backups. Sometimes it got so cold that even the warmers seemed to stop working. Nevertheless, at least they gave us that little extra warmth. I almost forgot. Remember to bring swimsuits, please. They may be used in the hot springs or in the hotel. Also, please bring a lot of cash and small bills for tips. In the US, tips for your guide may be $5 to $20 per person per day. The tips for a private tour guide may be $20 to $50 per day. Alright, prep work is done. Please follow along in my next video and join us on our adventure.